What's up, Flannelverse? Neil Orfield here, founder of the Flannelverse. If you don't know me, all you really need to know is that I am obsessed with fantasy sports, and I've had some success at it, especially in DFS, where I've won the NFL Millie Maker on DraftKings. And if you take away the Millie Maker, I'm still up hundreds of thousands of dollars with a dozen wins of $90,000 or more. In the past, I've been a hand builder and an optimizer user, and I still think you can win that way. But in 2025, I think that's playing on hard mode. So this year, I've upped my game. I've partnered with Run the Sims. And on this channel, I'll be demonstrating all year how I'm using Run the Sims to try to win again in 2025. And today I'll demonstrate how I'm using the product tonight for the Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins Showdown slate on DraftKings. By the way, if you haven't already done so, please do like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season, and I have a long ways to go, although 5,000 is within reach possibly this week. That's the hope, is that we'll get to 5,000 this week. If you could help out, I would very much appreciate it. All right, so we'll start here on the sim screen, and I like to just run the sims unencumbered first, so I don't like to change anything. Part of the reason I love Run the Sims is it is extremely customizable in the inputs. So you can see here, easy to change the rush rate, which will then change the passing rate. Also, the pace of the game, which is just the number of plays you expect a team to run, the points you expect a team to score. You can change the team level stats up here, or you can change individual players if you think that the field is going to have it wrong. If you think that one of the running backs is going to have more of a market share than you're expecting one of the receivers to have a bigger receiving share, et cetera, et cetera. You can change all of that here. Extremely customizable, which is not the case with a lot of the Sims products that are out there. So I love changing things to fit what I think is going to happen in the game. I don't think you have to. I think you can. You'll have plus EV lineups without making any changes here. But I like to make some changes. However, the first set of sims that I don't make any changes to the inputs. I'm just going to use the inputs that the Run the Sims team is giving us. It's obviously a very sharp team. Some of the best DFS players on the planet own Run the Sims. So I want to see what they're getting before I make any changes. The changes that I will make before I run the sims are in the settings. So I'm going to change the number of lineups to 25,000 for the first one. I'm going to change the size of contest field to 15,000 because I'm playing only the largest field contest. I wanted to simulate closest to the fields that I'm playing. And then number of simulations I'm going to leave at 10,000. I will change it to a top heavy payout structure because, again, the large field contests that I play tend to have the very top heavy payout structure. And then I am going to use the Shady portfolio diversifier tool. This is only available if you pay for the SimRunner Pro product. You can see when you look at the products, it'll tell you what is available there. But I think it's really cool. It will diversify your portfolio to give you the highest EV portfolio rather than all of the highest EV individual lineups. It's going to make a portfolio that does not cannibalize itself. So it's going to be just the highest EV over time for your portfolio. Okay. Now I'm going to click the SimRunner Pro button. This is going to take a few minutes. I'm going to cut that part out of the video. Just something to keep in mind. If you're going to be using Run the Sims, you need to give yourself a handful of minutes here to let the Sims run. You may have noticed I have a new hat. I just got some new Flannelverse hats in last week. I really like them. If you would like a Flannelverse hat, it's easy to win one. All you have to do is use the Flannelverse avatar on sites where it's possible. Win a prize of $1,000 or more in a DFS or draft game. Give a social media shout out to myself or Mathology13 or Flannelversity, and then send me your mailing address. It is that simple. If you would like to get a Flannelverse hat, just follow these steps. All right, so the first batch of sims are done. Again, I didn't make any changes to the inputs here. And in the first lineup, the highest EV lineup that we get here is a Devin Achane captain with Josh Allen one off, and then four more Dolphins in it. Julian Hill, Tanner Connor, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill. Uses the full $50,000 salary. Pretty interesting lineup here at the top with the one off Josh Allen, maybe assuming some rushing work for Josh Allen. Big old Tua Tagovailoa stack with again Achane at captain. Both of the tight ends, Julian Hill and Tanner Connor, and then Tyreek Hill in there. Uses the full $50,000 salary cap. This one expected to be duped just one time in a field of 15,000 lineups, which that kind of shows you that's probably why it looks so good, is a field of 15,000 lineups still being duped just one time using, I guess, even though it uses the full $50,000 salary, it pulls some other levers to be more unique, namely using Julian Hill and Tanner Connor, both expect to be pretty low owned, probably not going to be played in the same lineup together very often. And then Josh Allen unstacked. I bet that's a little bit unique. So pulls some levers to get a little bit unique, even within a lineup that uses the full 50,000 salary. Pretty interesting to see that one at the top. Second lineup, we're not expected to be duped much at all. This one uses Josh Palmer in the captain spot. That'll be kind of unique. Alec Ingold, another low-owned play. Devin Achane, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill. So some nice correlation here with Palmer at captain and Josh Allen. We've got the Alec Ingold low-owned one-off, Tua with Tyreek Hill and Devin Achane, and I guess Alec Ingold. Not really one-off. I said that wrong, but kind of a cool lineup there with the low-owned Alec Ingold bringing down the ownership quite a bit, even though it uses the full $50,000 salary. Looks like a lot of the lineups that have the highest EV tonight are not leaving a ton of salary on the table. You'll see sometimes I'll run the Sims and a lot of the top lineups will leave $2,000-$3,000 on the table. We're not seeing that tonight. I think that's just because Achane and Allen and to a lesser extent Hill and Tua and all these players project so well and they are expensive. So it's just hard to leave a ton of salary on the table and fit in all of the players that project extremely well tonight. So we have some one-offs here that are low-owned salary savers, but still using most of the salary cap in most of these lineups. You can see the fifth lineup here has Tyrell Shavers as the low-owned play with Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, Josh Palmer, Devin Achane, one-off at captain. All right, cool set of lineups here. Now I do want to look at my player exposures because I see Julian Hill in the first lineup and Tanner Conner in the first lineup. I want to make sure I'm not getting a crazy high number of some of these players that I want in my lineups, but I don't want my whole night to be made on some of these players that are kind of long shots. So I'm going to go to the player exposures tab. And I like to go position by position here. So quarterback, we've got Josh Allen only making it into 43% of my lineups. That's a little bit risky because Josh Allen projected to be 86% owned overall. So I'm about half the field in my Josh Allen exposure if I leave it like this. I might make some changes because I think Run the Sims has Josh Allen projected for higher ownership than other places do. And that's going to affect how much you get of different players. So for my next set, I'm actually going to lower his ownership, I think, and I'll probably get some more Josh Allen as a result. Then we've got Tua Tagovailoa, and you can see I'm looking at these columns down here where it says shady exposure, because that is, I set it to 150 to use the shady optimizer. So that's just looking at the exposure in those 150 lineups that I'm using the optimizer for. And that would be the lineups that I'm using if I'm playing exactly 150 tonight. This one has Tua in 63.3% of flex lineups, just 1.8% of captain lineups. So neither of the quarterbacks get into the captain spot all that often. At running back, I'm getting to a ton of Devin Achane. I like that. I think Achane a fantastic play tonight. 55.7% flex ownership, 39.4% captain ownership. So we're looking at 95% ownership overall on Devin Achane. I might want to cut back on that just a little bit because that seems a bit much, but I do want a lot of Achane, so no real complaints there. James Cook, we're looking at 37.6% flex, 4.6% captain exposure, so 40-some total percent. Only 8.4% Ty Johnson, 5% Ray Davis, 13.1% Alec Ingold in these lineups, 0.6% Jalen Wright. Looks like we didn't get to any Ollie Gordon in this set. Kind of interesting. At wide receiver, got to a lot of Tyreek Hill, 43.6% at flex, 20.7% at captain. Keon Coleman, 13.8% at flex, 8.6% at captain. Jalen Waddle, 25-7. Josh Palmer, 27-8. Malik Washington, 35-1. Khalil Shakir, just 7% ownership, 2% on Nick Westbrook-Ikine, 7% on Tyrell Shavers, 2% on Elijah Moore. Now, it is worth noting that at the time I'm making this video, Jalen Waddle is questionable to play tonight. I will be doing another video before lock, starting in about 85 minutes prior to lock. So around 5:50 Central Time, 6:50 Eastern, I'll be going live again on this channel. So if you want an update on what I'm doing, I'll be doing this again. I'll be making my lineups at the end of my show tonight if you want to see how I change things tonight. But this is kind of just giving you an idea of how I'm using the tool in case you want to see if you want to start using Run the Sims tonight. I wanted to make sure you know how I go about making my lineups here. And this is just the start. Just want to see what the exposures look like before I make any changes. And I'm currently working under the assumption that Jalen Waddle is playing tonight, so that will be my assumption. Obviously, a lot is going to change if he's out. Malik Washington's going to look better. Nick Westbrook-Ikine is going to look better, but also higher owned in that case. The kickers, not actually getting that much. Some past slates have been getting to a ton of kickers, not so much here. 15% Matt Prater, 18% Riley Patterson. Tight ends, we're getting to Dalton Kincaid 12% of the time in total, mostly at flex. Tanner Connor 37% of the time, only 0.5% at flex. That's a lot of Tanner Connor, but he is running more than 50% of the routes. He's not very expensive, and he's not projected for a ton of ownership. Just 1% Dawson Knox, 10% Julian Hill, and 0 of Jackson Hawes so far. And then defenses, I'm getting to 22% of the Bills, 2% of the Dolphins. Looks like I've got about one Bills captain lineup. So that's what I'm getting to so far. Now I'm going to go back to my inputs. And I'm also going to note when I look at my graded lineups, we're only grading just over 10,000 lineups. So even though I ran 25,000 in that last run, I only actually got to a little over 10,000 because a lot of them are dupes. So this tells me that in the next set of lineups I run, I can just do 15,000 lineups and I'm still going to get to all of the lineups that are going to show up for me. So I now know if I'm going to go back to my settings and set the number of lineups to 15,000. I don't actually need to make 25,000 on a showdown slate. I'm going to go back to the inputs now. All right, I wasn't getting to any Ollie Gordon, debating if I want to change that. So we're making the assumption here that Jalen Wright is going to get more of the rushing market share than Ollie Gordon, and I'm not sure that I believe that. I think Ollie Gordon has probably earned more of a role here. So I actually think I'm going to change that. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before I make any adjustments is click this smart adjust button. And what that's going to do is it's going to maintain proportions between the market share and touchdown share. So if I change Devin Achan's market share, for example, if I move that up to 75%, it's also going to move up his touchdown market share to around just under 75% because it's going to be moving up these numbers proportionally. Same thing if I change Ollie Gordon up to a 5% market share, it's also going to move up his touchdown market share, et cetera, et cetera. So it just makes sure it maintains the proportions between those numbers. You might not always want to do that. There might be some cases where you think a player is not going to get more work, but they might get more goal line work. So I want to move up their touchdown market share without moving up their total market share. That might happen sometimes throughout the year, but usually I'm going to want to move things up proportionally. All right, so again, I'm going to make the assumption that Jalen Waddle is playing for now. Obviously, things are going to change a bit if he does not play tonight. I do want to change the Ollie Gordon market share. I think he's actually likely to get the work, maybe more likely than Jalen Wright is. So I'm going to move him up to 10% market share and move Jalen Wright down to 2%. And it looks like he's still getting 0%. I think because the number started at 0 and it's only moving proportionally relative to himself, I also need to move up Ollie Gordon's touchdown market share. I'm just going to give him 5%. Then I'm going to click normalize, and that's going to make sure all of the numbers add up to 100%. I think I'm going to leave everything else as is for now. So one thing I want to change is Run the Sims has Josh Allen projected for 35% captain ownership. That seems a little bit high to me. Maybe it does come in that high. I'll have to track their numbers, but I think most places will project him for lower. I think it's more likely that Josh Allen comes in lower than 35%. So I'm going to set him at 25% at captain. I think that will lead to me getting more Josh Allen in my lineups. I do like the backup running backs a little bit better than the amount that I'm getting right now. Again, we can go back to my player exposures by going to SimRunner Pro player exposures. Let me look at the running backs again. So I'm getting an 8% Ty Johnson, 5% Ray Davis. I think there's a scenario where the Bills just win by a lot and end up running quite a bit. And even multiple running backs make it to the optimal. Currently, I'm getting to, a fair amount of James Cook, but still way less than Devin Achan, and then not nearly as much of the other backups, the other running backs on the Bills. So I think I'm going to change the rush rate up just a little bit. I'm going to move the rush rate actually all the way up to 50%. I'm going to move the points scored up just slightly, just to 31 from 30.8, not much there at all. Debating if I want to move anything else because I think I like all of the running backs a little bit better. But I wasn't getting into a ton of Josh Allen, so this kind of works for all of them. I was debating if I want to move down Josh Allen's rushing market share, but kind of I like Josh Allen and all of the running backs, so I don't actually think I do want to. I think just moving the rush rate up a little bit, the points scored up a little bit. I'm just going to change the pace slightly from 58.8 to 61. I think that'll help me to get to all of the running backs. I might need to move up the rushing rate even a little bit more, but I'm going to leave it here for now. Now, another player that I like tonight is Khalil Shakir. I think he could go a little bit under-owned. That's just, I don't really know. I don't have a great feel for it, but I sort of think the field is really excited about Keon Coleman potentially taking a big step forward. And Khalil Shakir came in with a high ankle sprain. There is some chance that he is still not fully recovered, but I think the expectation is that he's going to take a little dip in production at the beginning of the season, and throughout the year, he should get a little bit healthier. So I don't really want to buy too much into the small sample size we have so far. We saw Khalil Shakir led the team in targets by like 21 last year. So I think there's a possibility that we get back closer to that. And now he's priced as though he's not that alpha receiver here. So I think there's a good enough chance that he still is, and we're just dealing with a small sample size, that I actually like Shakir a bit. So I'm going to move his market share up to 20%. Oh, I should have smart adjusted that. I'm going to click that. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to unclick smart adjust, and then I'm going to move Khalil Shakir back to, I think it was at like 17.6% or something. Doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be precise, but it was somewhere around 17.6. It's not working. But now I'm going to click smart adjust, and now I'm going to click moving back to a 20% market share. Brings up his touchdown market share also. Now I need to click normalize. All right, I think that's good enough. I think that covered all of the changes I really wanted to make sure I got. All right, now I'm going to go back and click the SimRunner Pro button again. Again, this will take a few minutes, but I will cut that part out of the video. All right, second set of sims has been run. Looks like the running backs look a little bit better here, or at least I'm getting to James Cook in my top lineup. Still getting to a full Dolphins onslaught. Pretty interesting with the top EV lineup here. We've got Devin Achane in the captain spot still with Alec Ingold, Malik Washington, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill. Now we're one off with James Cook. I think the last time it was Josh Allen. Second lineup, we've got Tyreek Hill, Alec Ingold, Devin Achane, James Cook, Malik Washington, Tua Tagovailoa. Kind of interesting. So I have the shady portfolio optimizer tool on. We still have, I think, the exact same 6 players in these two lineups, but they still grade out as the top 2, even with the diversifier tool on. Just really likes this set of players together in this sim. Same exact players, it looks like. Except obviously when the captain's different, those kind of are 2 different players. But interesting to see the overlap in those lineups. Third lineup, we have some changes there. Devin Achane again in captain. Now we have Jalen Waddle in there. Josh Palmer, one off. Tanner Connor, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill. Fourth lineup, Josh Allen in the captain spot. Full on Bills onslaught. We've got Allen with Palmer, Coleman, Shakir, and Tyrell Shavers. Devin Achane one off. This one leaves 2,200 on the table. So that's the first one we've seen that's actually leaving significant salary on the table. And it's built out in a way that I really like, with the rushing quarterback in the captain spot, but also onslotted, which might be a little bit unique with Josh Allen at captain. I think that's a cool lineup. Fifth lineup, we've got Jalen Waddle in the captain spot, Bills defense in the flex. So that'll be a little bit different with Devin Achane, Tanner Connor, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill. One thing I'm noticing in these lineups that are looking really good in the sims right now is a lot of these kind of low-owned value plays who we don't have really high expectations for, and they're kind of spread out. So the Alec Ingolds of the world, the Tanner Connor, who else we have here? Julian Hill. We're seeing a lot of these players towards the top of the lineups, but then using closer to the full salary cap. Let's take a look at the exposures. Specifically, I want to look at running backs. I guess I'll start with quarterbacks again. So I'm still getting to not a ton of Josh Allen, a little bit more in the captain spot after lowering his captain projected ownership. Now I'm up to 10% in the captain, but still not a ton. 38% at flex as well, so 48% total. Josh Allen looking at a little bit under 70% of Tua, with only 5% of that in the captain spot. At running back, so I increased the rushing share of the Bills. Still didn't get to a ton of the backups. So we're getting to, again, a ton of Devin Achane, 68.5% in the flex, 27% at captain. We're getting to 40% and 8% of James Cook. Still just 4% Ty Johnson, 3% Ray Davis, 17% Alec Ingold with 1% in the captain spot. So again, I'm going to have to adjust things to get more of those Bills running backs. That's going to be a focus of mine as I'm trying to adjust these sims. I'm going to do just one more run here before I get out of here because I want to see if I can get that closer to numbers that I like. We're looking at 55% total exposure to Tyreek Hill, just under 19% of Keon Coleman, 36% Jalen Waddle in total with 12% of that captain. Malik Washington, we're at 34 and 4. Still not getting to a ton of Khalil Shakir, even after I increased his rates. Maybe I need to increase them a little bit more. I'm at 14% in the flex, still at 19 and 6% of Josh Palmer, 2% Nick Westbrook-Ikine, 9% Tyrell Shavers, 4% Elijah Moore. I did just see a notification while I was running these sims that we are expecting Jalen Waddle to play tonight, so keep that in mind. As of right now, it appears Jalen Waddle is going to play. Getting to mid-teens of the kickers, a lot of Tanner Connor, probably more than I want of Tanner Connor. I also think if I increase my exposure to the backup running backs on the Bills, I'll probably get a little bit less of Tanner Connor. And then just 13% of the Bills, 1% of the Dolphins. Okay. So the biggest thing I want to change is more of the Bills running backs and maybe a little bit more of Khalil Shakir. So I'm going to go back to the inputs. And now I'm going to change a few things here. Now, first of all, I'm going to change the pace for the Bills because it's kind of across the board. I'm getting less of the Bills than I think I'd like. I wasn't getting to a ton of Josh Allen, not getting to that much James Cook. Just in general, I'm getting to way more of the Dolphins than the Bills. And I suspect that's because they're projected for lower ownership. But I think I do want more Bills here. And in particular, I want more of the running backs. So I'm going to change the pace all the way from 61 to 65. Expect the Bills to run 65 plays here. I'm going to increase the points scored to 32. I'm going to change the rush rate up to 50. Ooh. Do I want to go all the way up to 54%? My worry there is that I'm not going to get any of the receivers. I'm going to change the rush rate to 52%. And the issue here is there's nobody on the Bills that I'm like, I'm getting way too much of this player and I want less of this Bills player. I want more of others. I think I'm getting to more of the Dolphins than I want in general. I think in general, I want to increase my exposure to the Bills. So maybe I do want to increase it even more. Maybe I'll change the point scored to 33, the pace to 67. So I just have it's a way different. I have way higher points and pace for the Bills. Hopefully this will get me to just more of the Bills in general without just overwhelming the system and getting rid of all of my Dolphins exposure. Debating if I want to change the market share a little bit. Maybe I'll bring up. I'm actually going to bring down Josh Allen's rushing market share just slightly. I'm going to bring it down to a 20% rushing market share. I'm going to bring up Ray Davis slightly and Ty Johnson. Then I'm going to click normalize. And then I'm also going to move Khalil Shakir up even a little bit more. So I'm going to bring him to 22% receiving market share. Click normalize. So hopefully that gets me to a little bit more of Khalil Shakir. All right, I think that's good enough. I'm gonna see what this gives me. All right, so that is going to be the final sim run that I do on the stream. Just want to point out that normally I would do more sims if I don't get to lineups that I like. I just keep going until I have exposures that I'm comfortable with. I look at the teams I'm getting. I like the teams I'm getting. But for now, this is the final sim I'm going to do here. Again, I will be going live tonight, and I'll be making my lineups right there on the stream. So I won't be able to make that many sim runs during the stream, but you can see exactly my process as I try to get there. Top lineup here in this sim: Devin Achane in the captain spot with Alec Ingold, James Cook, Malik Washington, Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, leaves 400 on the table. Second lineup, another Achane with James Cook. We've got Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, Tanner Connor, Tua Tagovailoa. Third lineup has Josh Allen with James Cook, Khalil Shakir, and Ty Johnson. So we did up our Johnson exposure a little bit. We've got Tanner Connor and Devin Achane from the Dolphins. Then we've got Tyreek Hill with Devin Achane, James Cook, Ray Davis, Tanner Connor, and Tua Tagovailoa. I can see just looking at my top lineups here, I'm getting to more of the Bills running backs in general, which I'm happy with. I think this is a great spot for the Bills running backs. I think we could have multiple of them look really good tonight. Now I'm going to go to my player exposures to check out how much I actually got to. So first of all, at quarterback, got to a little bit more Josh Allen now. Happy to see that. Again, that's because I drastically changed some of the numbers to make the Bills look a lot better. Now I'm getting to 48% of Josh Allen in the flex and 9% at captain. We brought down our Tua numbers, which again, I'm okay with that. I wanted to get more of the Bills. I'm at 43% in the flex of Tua, 3% in the captain spot. At running back, I'm up to 73% Achane in the flex, 23% at captain. I'd be okay bringing down my Devin Achane a bit. I like Devin Achane a lot tonight. I just don't know that I need him in 96% of my lineups as I'm getting here. I think I could bring that number down a little bit to get more of the Bills that I like. James Cook, I'm at 40% in the flex, 20.5% at captain. So a fair amount of James Cook. That's going to happen when he is the top running back, and I've drastically increased the rush rate. Ty Johnson, I'm up to 13% at flex, 0.5% at captain. I think I could maybe bring down my James Cook exposure a little bit to get more of Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. Like that could be, I could increase their market shares a little bit more. Not that I'm not really upset with this 60% James Cook. That looks pretty good to me. Just, something I could do if I decide I want more of Johnson and Davis. But I'm at, again, 13% and 20% of Ray Davis. I like those. I think this is a good spot for the Bills secondary running backs tonight. 13% Alec Ingold. Still not getting into any Ollie Gordon. That might be another thing I do, is try to get just a little bit more Ollie Gordon. At wide receiver, getting to 40% of Tyreek Hill, including 10% at captain, 28% Khalil Shakir, 7% at captain as well, so 35% total. Keon Coleman, we're getting to just 15% Keon Coleman, so taking a little bit of a risk there if the field does end up playing him a lot, as they're projected to do. Jalen Waddle at 25%, 26% overall. Josh Palmer, 37% total ownership here with 14% at captain. That's kind of notable that I'm getting to a lot of Palmer at captain. Malik Washington getting to a lot. Again, he's one of the better cheap plays who's just going to be out there running a lot of routes. I skipped right over Khalil Shakir. I was looking for him down here. Yeah, I got to 35% Khalil Shakir now. So I'm happy with that. I moved up my Khalil Shakir numbers closer to where I want them to be. I might want even more than that. I think he could go a little bit under owned tonight. He also has not been used all that much so far this year. So my assumption could be totally wrong. You might want to do something completely different that I'm doing, make some different assumptions. I'm giving you the assumptions that I'm making, the angles that I'm trying to play, but you might see things a little bit differently. And I'm just kind of trying to show you how you can change things to play to the assumptions that you want to make tonight. But that is going to actually, let me look real quick at the tight ends. Dalton Kincaid, 13% and 1.6 at captain. None of the other tight ends get any captain ownership. We have 30% Tanner Connor, 2% Dawson Knox, 11% Julian Hill, 15% Bills defense overall. Another thing you can do is, if you want to get more of the defenses, you can increase their sack rate. I did not do that here, but it's something I might consider doing tonight. All right, reminder, if you want to try out Run the Sims, use promo code Neil. You get 10% off your first payment on whatever product you want to sign up for. Highly recommend it. I really enjoy it. Very customizable, easy to make some lineups. They have different products if you want to check out. They have an optimizer, other stuff you can check out as well. Here I am, of course, using the SimRunner Pro product, which is $300 a month minus 10% if you use promo code Neil. So it'll be $270 for the first month if you want to check it out. All right, thanks, guys. I'll catch you tonight.